All right, let's do this. Hey guys, what's going on? That's DC Hockey, brand new Washington Capitals hockey podcast. My name is Sammi Silber. I'm the Caps beat writer for the Hockey News. This is a fun little podcast I decided to start on my own. After last year I had a podcast and it was awesome, and this year we're just kind of taking things in a new direction and going with some Caps hockey and some hockey around the DMV. It's going to get into all the latest Capitals news and analysis, everything you have to know, everything you want to know, some anecdotes here and there, and maybe some playing chronicles, and maybe some fun personal stories too. I wanted to kind of introduce myself because some of you know me, some of you may not. Obviously, I'm Sammi. I'll need to do that whole spiel again. I've been writing about the Caps and covering the Caps this is my 8th season. I'm 27 years old, so I kind of grew up a little bit in the press box, which is the coolest thing anybody can say and the coolest honor I've had in my life. It honestly has been such a road because my first year covering the team was the year that they won the Stanley Cup. And growing up a Caps fan, when you take that leap from fan to reporter and you actually see them go through the motions and everything that it takes and the 100+ games it takes to finally hoist the Stanley Cup. It was just a wild experience and an unreal one. The food was great too, so that was awesome. But yeah, so let's get into it a little bit. Got into hockey from a young age. My entire life is hockey. So growing up, I think I was 9, maybe pushing 10. Which I don't want to say pushing 10 because I think that sounds weird. Like that's too early to start worrying about age, just like when you're 10, right? It's a little too, yeah. So when I was 10, 9, around there, my mom came home from work. Shout out to my mom, Patty. I'll talk about her a lot on this podcast. She'll probably laugh. She's awesome. She's my best friend. She's my hero. But she came home from work because she worked so hard, and she got Caps tickets from her boss, and she said, hey, I have tickets. Let's take this socially awkward 9-year-old who just switched elementary schools and lift her spirits, bring her to a Caps game. And being 9 at the time, I mean, you kind of go with the flow of what your family wants to do. It's not like I'm walking around or I have a license or anything or have other plans. So I was like, let's do it. It was a Caps Blues game in 2008. And we went, and I just remember seeing, John Erskine dropping the gloves and Jose Theodore making some great saves in net, and I think Ovi scored that game, and I just fell in love with it. I was like, oh my gosh, this sport has everything. There are people punching each other, there's people scoring goals, there's red lights, there's, food, like hot dogs. It's amazing. And I just became obsessed from there on out. Like, I just loved hockey. I couldn't get enough. It became, I don't want to say obsession because it really is a lifestyle for me. It's not just like, oh, I'm crazy about hockey. I am literally immersed in hockey all the time. And it's been such a road. And so growing up, I knew I wanted to be involved with hockey. I didn't know exactly how life would turn out. My grades were so going into high school. Then I started to kind of realize, hey, you got to turn on the brain and you got to start, thinking a little bit. So, got my grades up, and it came time to, decide what I wanted to do with my life, which, if you're in high school and you're listening to this, don't just do what you love. Don't sweat it. I had so many teachers being like, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And no, you pave your own path in the most beautiful way possible. And if you don't know what your path is yet, it's okay. It's totally, at your own pace. There's no right roadmap. And when I was going through high school and I was entering my senior year, I had no idea where I wanted to go to college. I was that big shot kid who was like, yeah, I'm going to California, right? But if I'm away 20 minutes, I miss home. So that wasn't going to happen. But, I was thinking about it, and I'd always loved writing. I had written a couple books. I, used to write fiction. I was like, maybe I'll teach. But I was a camp counselor, and I'm an awkward person, and I'm good with kids, but I'm not great, you know what I mean? So I was like, maybe I don't want to teach. Let's get into, something that involves hockey maybe. Anyway, so I figured let's try to put hockey and writing together. Like, let's combine them. Let's see where it goes. Let's see if I'm any good at it. Maybe I'll be good at it. Maybe I won't be good at it, but at least let's just give it a shot. And it turned out that I was okay at it. Like, I was actually decent at it. And I blogged and I went to college. I was like, let me major in journalism. Let me learn and figure out what I'm doing, and go from there. And it turns out that I had a skill. I had some talent with it, and I love doing it. So it blossomed from there. And I had people in college, like advisors, tell me, like, the odds of you becoming a hockey writer are like, it's not going to happen. Like, don't, go too deep into this. Like, how many hockey writers are there? Especially, like, one of my advisors actually said to me, like, how many, like, female hockey writers are there? Like, you're never gonna land it. Like, it's just not gonna happen. And that was crazy to me. Like, that was, like, heartbreaking to, like, sophomore Sammi. But I was like, you know what? Whatever. Like, I'm gonna pave my own path. I'm gonna keep doing it because I love it. I kept going. I just paved my own path, and I said, let's do it. And here I am 8 years later, still in the Caps press box. And I got some yeses and I got some nos, and we went from there. And, as much as the nos hurt, it was the yeses that kept me going and kept me motivated and inspired me to keep going. So finally here. So that's a little bit about me. Let's get into the crux of what this podcast is about, because it's not about Sammi. It is about the Washington Capitals. I felt like this team has such a dedicated fan base, and this year has been so impressive that we need to cover it in as many different aspects as possible. And one of those is a podcast. I felt like we needed another podcast to explore Washington Capitals hockey at its finest. So let's get into it. Let's talk some Caps. Let's start off with some news. So the Caps right now are on holiday break as I speak, but they will be returning to MidStar Capitals Iceplex on Friday for morning practice before taking off for Toronto. Hockey Night in Canada, what better platform for the return of the Grade 8? Alex Ovechkin, upgrade to contact, finally starting to be on the mend after a month and change of dealing with a broken leg he suffered back in Utah. Again, that collision with McBain, completely incidental. It happens. It's hockey. It's just good that the captain is doing well. It was a fractured left fibula. Luckily, not a weight-bearing bone, so he was able to walk on it, maybe get back faster. And now it looks like he's on pace to return for this Toronto game, because he's finally gotten a couple of contact practices in. Tomorrow will be a really big step there as well. And if he returns for that game, it will be so fitting, because Alex Ovechkin loves to play in Toronto. His career numbers are great against there. And, 15 goals in 18 games before getting hurt. I see no reason why he can't come back and pick it up. Everybody was looking at Ovechkin going into this year, and there were some people doubting that, at 39, he could keep it up, especially after the slow start last year. But he finished on unbelievable pace and just kept it going to start this year. He has the right stick specs. Everything's working for him. He looks great. Everything about his game is still present. He also has quite a few high danger shots per game when he's on the ice, ninth in that category per 60. And I see no reason why he won't be back to full form. That being said, the Caps have fared pretty well without him. A lot of that is thanks to two 2019 draft picks, Alexei Protas and Connor McMichael, but especially Protas. What a year it's been for Alexei Protas. He is fully coming into his prime, absolutely dominating when he's on the ice, 6'6" frame, making the most of it. But the most important thing that he does at his size is he's able to skate and read the ice so well. He can win those battles for pucks. He's finally coming into his own, and it's been an absolute breakout for Protas this season. You see he has 29 points in 34 games, on pace for about 70 points. Matched his career high from last year in 45 fewer games, which is insane, to say the least. So big season for Protas. Another player on the same track, Connor McMichael, same numbers. Outstanding season so far, leads the team with 16 goals, and he's just getting so much confidence from more playing time. It's been incredible to see how he's been able to thrive and transform his game and really embrace that role on the wing. There's no denying that he can also be a great center, but on the wing, he just has great chemistry with whoever he's with. He gets to the right areas, his speed, his stick handling, but it's that hockey IQ, that vision from McMichael that really makes him a standout. So that being said, the youth has been a huge, huge part of the team's success. And you've also seen it, from the rise of Ivan Miroshnichenko since Ovechkin has been out. And there are going to be some tough roster decisions coming up because Miroshnichenko, since his call up, has been pretty dang good in that fourth line role. Carberry spoke a little bit about it. He spoke on Miroshnichenko's ability, just what he brings to the table, and how he's finally embracing that responsibility that comes with being a fourth line player in the NHL, especially when you're alongside Nick Dowd and Brandon Duhaime and on a little bit of a powerhouse of a unit that honestly carries the brunt of the Capitals' defensive responsibility up front. So he's been very well there. In recent games, he's been benched from time to time for mistakes that he's made, an icing that was costly and, led to some fatigue and then a penalty and then a goal against. And then you also have, in Boston, he didn't play much. And it was an odd lineup in Boston where you ran 11 forwards and 7D. And it's all part of the learning experience for the 20-year-old. I think Carberry knows, that Miroshnichenko has the potential to play top minutes, but it's about earning those minutes and getting there, right? And it's all a process. It's a marathon and not a sprint with Miroshnichenko. And then along with Miroshnichenko, you have Hendrix Lapierre. And Lapierre is a little bit of an enigma. He's struggling. He is not playing his best hockey right now. I spoke to him a little bit about a month ago, and he couldn't really, put his finger on what's going on or why, the struggles have been so prominent throughout the year. And he mentioned that confidence is hard to come by, especially when you're in and out of the lineup. And, when he was playing at the wing, he really started to kind of try and find his game again, especially with Lars Eller and Andrew Mangiapane. But recently it just hasn't been trending in the right direction. And before the break, he found himself scratched again and not part of that 11 forward lineup. So I wouldn't rule out a return of Hershey for Lapierre. I think that it might be beneficial to just get him back to playing top 6 minutes, get him back to the speed he needs to be at and the speed he was at last year when he was up in the NHL and making such an impact in that second half for the Caps. It just takes time, and there's nothing wrong with going back and trying from there. And as hard as it may be, and as much as, players don't necessarily love to return to the minor leagues, especially after they made a fully expected promotion this year, I think that for Lapierre, it would be good. And I think it'll ultimately come down between the two of them. There are going to be hard decisions to make. There are 22 roster spots taken right now. Alex Ovechkin is on the IR, as is Lars Eller, Sonny Milano on the LTIR, along with Backstrom and Oshie, who are not expected to play again this season. You decide between one or the other, I think, and you go from there. But I truly believe that Lapierre could get some time in Hershey. Jacob Vrana was also in that discussion of, will we see him, after the holiday break? I think he's safe for now. He's on, 4-game point streak, 3-game goal scoring streak. He's shooting the puck more. He has more confidence. Now it's just about building on the other part of his game at the other end of the ice and going from there. But Vrana's safe for now. I think you choose between Lapierre and Miro. And I'm kind of leaning toward Lapierre, but we'll see. That being said, the youth movement is promising. You just had a Henrik Rubinski call-up. It was kind of disappointing that he didn't get to play, but still very good sign that he's being called up. The Caps have absolutely taken notice. 20 points, 28 games in the American Hockey League this year, and he's really embracing that role down the middle. And just the versatility that he brings to the table and the vision are two huge parts of his game that truly I would be surprised if he did make his NHL debut at some point. But again, good to see him getting a call up there. You also have a lot of promise playing on the international stage right now. World Juniors kicked off today. Ryan Leonard captaining Team USA. Talking about Leonard, I again wouldn't be surprised to see him be in a Capitals uniform by the end of the season. I think if you're looking at a team like Washington that could maybe add if they want to make a deep run, right? I think that what better addition do you have than a high scoring young rookie coming in out of Boston College? I think he's been great. The numbers speak for themselves, and this World Juniors will be a huge run for him in Team USA. Cole Hudson also on Team USA. And then you have a handful of other prospects. You got Miroslav Shatan Jr. with Slovakia, Eric Matejko with Latvia, Leon Mugli with Switzerland, and Peter Sikora with Czechia. So you have a pretty solid group of Caps prospects currently playing in Ottawa. So that's fun to look out for. But beyond the youth movement, because let's talk about this for a minute. Going into the season, there were a number of critics, not me for what it's worth, and I'll get into that in a minute. But there were a number of critics that counted out the Washington Capitals, said, you know, I like the moves that they made in the offseason. They brought in Pierre-Luc Dubois. They brought in Jacob Chikrin, Logan Thompson, a bunch of other transactions. I just don't know if they're going to be a playoff team. I am not surprised to see that they are wrong. When I was covering the draft and I was in the Sphere, and I heard, it's crazy. The Sphere was a crazy experience, and covering the draft was awesome, and Vegas was a time. But being in the Sphere and hearing over the intercom that the Capitals have traded for Logan Thompson, that was my signal right then and there that, okay, this team is going all in on trying to retool on the fly, but they're also going to be good. Like they're not just like downplaying this, you know, we're going to change and we're going to have a better roster than we did last year. No, they went full all in commitment to a retool that would make them contenders. And I am not surprised that they have worked out. I think critics easily count them out because it's like, okay, have we seen a retool on the fly in recent years that brought in so many new faces and ended up working out? Now, like that said, like we're not in the playoffs yet. It's still very early. But this Capitals team has been through some tough tests this year. And you're able to stay afloat without Alex Ovechkin. Your record speaks for itself. You were leading the league in goals per game. I mean, those numbers have faltered lately, but I mean, again, like there are ebbs and flows of the season. Those numbers are expected to dip, especially when you lose the greatest goal scorer of all time. And you have a pair of goaltenders who are alternating really well in Thompson and Charlie Lindgren. So those new additions have just come together so well. And part of it too is, look, and everybody around the NHL will say the same thing, that they had the best locker room. The Capitals room is something special. Trust me, I've heard it from other reporters. I've heard it from, you know, players themselves. You know, I covered the Caps for so long, yes, but I've been in other NHL locker rooms. I've seen the differences. I've seen the ebbs and flows of the league. And I can tell you that there is something special about the Capitals locker room. That team is just so close-knit. Those players play for each other. I mean, it's Ovechkin, it's Carlson, you know, Oshie's been around even though he's, you know, not playing. But Tom Wilson is such an important voice in that room, as is Dylan Strome. We'll get to them in a second. And then you have guys like Nick Dowd who they speak, you know, and you listen. But we also got to give credit to Spencer Carberry. I mean, he should win the Jack Adams, and it should not even be close. Spencer Carberry has been an absolute game changer for Washington. His energy, it's contagious. I mean, every single player wants to play their best for him. He's honest too. Like if he loves what you did, he'll tell you. If he hated what you did, he'll tell you. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. He's as honest about the game as it comes. And that leadership, it's just come all the way through the organization. It's fallen to the players. And from there, it just creates such a tight-knit, good culture that's bringing this team in the right direction. There were two players that I named in that little TED Talk segment that I just had, right? Dylan Strome. Let's talk about him. Dylan Strome leads the Capitals with 38 points. Maybe slowed down a little bit here recently in December, but still, I mean, you can count on him to come up with, a really important goal or an assist when he has to. Right there with the top of the NHL to start the year. Again, maybe some breakaway in that rate. He was meant to be a star in Washington, D.C. Arizona just wasn't the answer. Neither was Chicago. Finally, when he came to DC, there was a team that finally wanted him to play a top role. Coming to DC, Dylan Strome just wanted to feel wanted. That's all he asked for as a player, is he just wanted to be wanted and just wanted a place to live up to his full potential. And Washington has been the perfect landing spot. Under Carberry, he's been getting more responsibility, getting ice time, playing that top center role. And it's been absolutely huge for Dylan Strome. And then the guy that he sits next to in the room, Tom Wilson. He deserves a lot of credit as well. He has been such a leader. And his teammates, also speak to how much he's grown over the past few years. And he's a force to be reckoned with. It's not just because, he can throw the body. He's a complete 200-foot player, takes on power play time, takes on penalty kill time. And then you also see, you can see everything Tom Wilson is about in that Montreal game. Jacob Chikrin's shot, which he has a blistering shot from the point. But it breaks Wilson's sinus bone. His cheek swells up to the size of, it was bigger than like a Halo Clementine at this point. But he comes back a few minutes later and throughout the game rallies his team and scores 2 huge goals en route to a big win. He is the next captain of the Washington Capitals. He is loving the leadership role that he's been taking on. His teammates love it. More credit needs to go to Tom Wilson, especially during Ovechkin's absence. You need players to step up, and he has been one of the players to step up, not just in the sense of helping provide offense, but helping keep the room, rallied and excited. Another guy that's been great through the month of December, Pierre-Luc Dubois, leads the Capitals in scoring through the month of December. When he came here over the summer in exchange for Darcy Kemper, there were some questions. The rumor mill around the league, I think it can be such a double-edged sword. And I think to players, we as reporters, we don't know them personally. I'm very lucky to get to do what I do, but you also have no idea really who people are. And Pierre-Luc Dubois is just he's a great person. If you ask any of his teammates, that's the first thing they'll tell you is he's a great person. And the two teams that he was with, you had Columbus and you had Winnipeg, before Los Angeles. There were issues there of their own. And I think that Dubois was somebody who, having moved around, it might have been easier to, scapegoat a player but he absolutely, did not deserve any of the backlash that he got there. And then you go to LA and you're not playing in a top 6 role. You're not being utilized correctly. And you're struggling in your own right. Just transitioning to a new team and a change of scenery, getting used to new systems. And it just wasn't a fit for Dubois. It wasn't about effort. It wasn't anything like that. It was just, hey, it just didn't work. And now he's in DC. And he's thriving. He's playing such an important role. What's not talked about enough about Dubois' play is his defensive ability. He's shutting down other teams' top lines. He's playing heavy minutes. He's able to win faceoffs. If he needs to get the puck out, he can get the puck out. He can carry. He can pull off a really good entry. And he just makes so many small plays that add up and become so vital to a big win. Do they always show up on the score sheet? No. But they're if you just watch the game, they're easy to see. So Pierre-Luc Dubois is my guy to watch going into the new year. He's been excellent for DC. Caps fans should be very, very happy with the trade. And it looks like it's worked out for Darcy Kemper as well. So good win-win there. And honestly, him, Wilson, Strome, new guys, old guys, all coming together and making a perfect team. So I see the Caps doing pretty well this year. We're a long way from playoffs. I think I'm not great with predictions, so I'm not going to go and make, outlandish statements or anything like that. But I think that this Capitals group is something special. From Dubois to Wilson, it's a special group to watch. So keep your eye on it, especially as Ovi nears his return. Speaking of Wilson, I wanted to shout him out. A couple of weeks ago, Tom Wilson pulled me aside and explained that the way I was doing my butterflying goal was just all wrong. I need to get the knees together. He is awesome. Shout out to Tom for pointing that out. I switched to goalie 2.5 months ago, and I just want to say it has been such a fun time, and I will never say, how did the goalie let that in? I will never say that again. I think my first game, it was like a pickup game, and I just got demolished. I must have let in, 20. I mean, granted, when you're the only goalie and you're switching back and forth and these guys are home from college and they make you feel bad, yeah, you're going to let in a lot of goals. But it's really taught me a lot. There's so much that goes into it, from angles to positioning to puck tracking to just reflexes alone are such an important role. Appreciate your goalie. If you know a goalie, hug your goalie. It's just such, if you're just show love to your goalies, love your goalies, hug your goalies. It's the holidays, man. Text your goalie, say, I appreciate you, because it is not easy. Playing on the wing compared to being a goalie, it is nothing. So it's been a lot of fun. I'm wearing the Ghost Pirates jersey right now. Have the trophy next to me that we won over the summer. Every week I'm going to try to switch up the jersey. Thought I would go OG because we are playing in a holiday tournament this week and we are listed as away for all 3 games, so you get to wear the dark sweaters. But yeah, so this isn't going to be a super long pilot episode just because we're going to have guests and we're going to have so many different segments going forward. But this pilot was just starting things off and getting off on the right foot. Follow me on Twitter at Sammi Silber. Follow me on Twitter at Sammi Silber. Instagram and Thread, Sam's Hockey 79. YouTube, Sammy on Hockey. That's DC Hockey also has its own channel. So make sure that you tune in and subscribe. We'll be back next Thursday, earlier in the day, late night release tonight. Let's talk some more hockey, and hopefully we see Ovi in the coming days. Catch you guys later.